aspect of the new provisions. We will allow, the new regulations will allow, come Tuesday the 19th, the reopening of hardware stores and Home Depots, car dealerships and other businesses which sell parts and maintain and repair vehicles. Also the reopening of, that means reopening of garages, as well as boat maintenance and repair businesses, car wash businesses, construction, building and maintenance businesses, including businesses which provide engineering, plumbing and electrical, air conditioning, and similar services. So one of the most difficult bits that, let me deal with the issue of masks before I go on to deal with the more involved and difficult bits about the reopening of construction and development sector. There are provisions in the regulations dealing with the wearing of masks, which mirror the provisions that in the regulations we've made for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. And essentially, they require the wearing of masks in all enclosed public spaces where it is difficult or impossible to distance yourself the required 6 feet or 2 meters from the next person. And the regulations will permit the proprietor of the establishment to deny entry to persons who refuse to comply with the regulation to wear masks within their premises. So coming now to how we deal with construction and development. As I indicated or foreshadowed in previous press conferences this week, this has been an area that has given us a great deal of trouble to come up with an arrangement which allows the reopening of that sector to be conducted fairly, but at the same time in a way that minimizes the public health risks inherent in the reopening of a sector with more than 8,000 workers, and in situations necessarily because of the nature of the work where people come in close contact with each other unavoidably. So because there are, at last count, 1,968 entities who have trade and business licenses to operate within the construction and development sector, we understood very swiftly that if that was the starting point, we would not be able to provide the required testing to that number of persons in relatively short order. So to cut through a whole lot of other detail, we reached a situation where we, in conjunction with the director of planning, who will be available, as will the minister of planning, to answer questions following our presentations here, to identify essentially what projects were either close to completion, needing what is called final inspections only, and how many persons would be involved in getting that done, and then looking beyond that to other active projects, which are essentially projects which are already underway or were underway at the time that the lockdown was imposed. And as a result of consultation with the leads persons with respect to the first category I mentioned, which are the final inspections, we have identified, I believe, off the top of my head, 45 of those projects which will be allowed to proceed early next week because we've been able or are in the process of testing all of the personnel who would be involved because the number is relatively small, somewhere just over 100 personnel. And of course, what this will do is once you get your final inspection and you get your sign-off, those trigger payments to the contractor. And obviously, the contractor is then in a better position to be able to pay subs. And the second category of that I just referred to involve construction projects for commercial and multifamily dwellings. We have about 65 of those different commercial and multifamily properties across Grand Cayman that are under active construction. And active means that the project has received an inspection since January this year. With these 65 projects, we anticipate up to 3,000 workers could be allowed back on the job. For this group, the project leads have also been contacted via email today and asked to submit the names of workers by project. Names should be submitted as soon as possible to the planning department in the prescribed format to allow for scheduling of the necessary tests or COVID-19 screenings. These screenings will take place on a first-come, first-served basis. Workers will be exempted by the competent authority after the testing is completed. If all goes according to plan, construction work for this second group, commercial and multifamily projects, could begin as early as next week. And the third group involves workers on single-family dwellings and duplexes. The project leads on these projects will be contacted during the week of May 25th. That is not next week, but the following, for the names of workers by project. Once again, these individuals would need to be ruled as COVID-free before they can return to work. Whilst it is estimated that the construction industry and supporting services involved is around 8,000 people, the government's strategy is to test up to 3,200 people within the next 2 weeks, starting the 18th of May. And once we have tested 40% of the construction population, and if the results allow, we then anticipate that the rest of the construction industry would commence work on the 1st of June. I should say in addition that Dr. Lee has indicated that they will continue testing even after these exercises are done, a number of field testing on a random basis to ensure that we continue to have the best possible readout on what the virus is doing or hopefully not doing in the broader community. And as I indicated at some of the earlier press briefings this week, public health will also be carrying out inspections without notice on projects that are restarted to ensure that the proper protocols are being observed, the wearing of masks, the distancing insofar that that is possible between persons who are working, and that there are adequate sanitation facilities to allow for the frequent washing of hands and the like, and that this is a particular concern with this particular sector, that the transportation of employees is being done in as careful and thoughtful and safe a manner as the circumstances